It's Sunday, July 20th, and we have two slight risks of severe weather, one up here in the northern plains and one out here in the northeast. Then we have a large marginal risk of severe weather, which spans all the way from the northern plains, central plains, through the Midwest, into the mid-Atlantic, and then back out into the northeast as well. And then just a widespread threat of some general thunderstorm activity. This risk is going to be wind-driven with 15% risk of some severe winds back in our northern plains risk area, then our northeastern risk area, then a large 5% conditional risk for severe winds, which spans our entire slight risk area. And our risk for hail is going to be much smaller, with it being mostly confined back here in the northern plains, with our greatest risk area being up here in parts of northern South Dakota and southern North Dakota, with a conditional area which stretches down all the way into the northwestern part of Kansas. And we also have a 5% conditional risk for some hail out here in the northeast as well. Then our tornado risk is going to be very small today. It's actually going to be close to zero. The Storm Prediction Center has not highlighted any area with a super high probability of tornadoes today. So that's actually very good news. And we still have some tropical activity out here in the Atlantic. The National Hurricane Center is still highlighting that area back up here in our main development region with a 20% chance of formation currently, which could in the near future bring a threat to the Lesser Antilles and Caribbean islands, and eventually could even pose a threat to the mainland US. But currently this is just something to look out for and not really worry about. And our flood risk today is going to highlight two areas, one up here in the northern plains and one down here, which stretches all the way through the Midwest. And in both those areas, we could see anywhere between 1 to 4 inches of rain, probably being closer to the higher part of that scale. Then we have a couple of areas which have just been highlighted for general risk of just excessive rainfall. One is going to be out here in the northeast, one is going to be out here in the southwest, and our other one is going to stretch all the way down from the US-Canada border back into parts of the mid-Atlantic. One of our main areas of concern is going to be out here in the Midwest, with a large swath of what looks like anywhere between 2 to 4 inches of rain coming to the region, pretty much starting the entire day, going from morning all the way to sunset, and even potentially into the night hours. And our second main cluster looks like is going to be out here in the Dakotas, where it looks like we could have a large swath of anywhere between 2 to 3, potentially some isolated areas of even 4 inches of rain as well. And this would start pretty much in the morning hours and even go all the way until nightfall as well, like our Midwest risk area. And then unsurprisingly, it's going to be very hot out here in the plains, southeast, and even parts of the lower Midwest, where we could see a lot of feels like temperatures in the low 100s today. And even in other parts of the country, like out west, we could see a lot of above average temperatures for the region as well. Here is our simulated reflectivity from our northeastern risk area, and we can see that we're going to get a couple of strong storms in the region starting right after midday in the early afternoon, initiated by some frontal activity and some troughing going through the region. And what we'll notice is that the further north we go, for example, all the way up here into Maine, we're going to see some more organized storms. That's going to be associated with more organizational shear near our shortwave ejecting, and then pretty much down all the way until parts of southern New Jersey is where that conditional risk for some winds in excess of 60 miles are going to be. Then there is also the conditional threat for some hail out here, and it looks like this risk is pretty much going to last all the way through the day into the night when these storms finally push out into the Atlantic. And here is our northern plains risk area. It looks like we're going to get some storm initiation of a pretty strong cluster, which will push east-southeast through the day through North Dakota and back into parts of South Dakota. And it looks like this is also going to be initiated by some troughing, mostly troughing, but possibly some weak frontal activity as well. And as we push through the day, this is mostly just going to bring the conditional threat of some damaging winds and possibly some large hail in its earlier stages. But it looks like we could see the conditional threat of a couple of storms sprouted on the outflow of this as well. This would be pretty much around the sunset hours when that low level jet will be kicked in, and these storms could bring that threat of some large hail as well, and then the isolated threat for some damaging gusts. And it looks like they will last pretty far through the night all the way into early Monday morning. Then a little further south from here in parts of Nebraska and even down into Kansas, there's the conditional threat for some severe weather as well along an area of some frontal activity. Then here is a look from our Midwest risk area. Looks like we could see some organized storms start to pop up in the morning hours, with them really getting their act together in the early afternoon. And this is going to be along a pretty large area of frontal activity where there's just going to be a moist and relatively unstable environment for these storms to work with. So definitely the conditional threat or some severe gusts is going to be the main risk with these storms. And it looks like they're going to last pretty much all the way up into the evening hours before they just turn into a pretty disorganized cluster, which is just going to bring that rain threat at that point. And here are 500 millibar winds, and immediately we're going to see a trough ejecting up here in the northeast, which is going to help to bring some forcing for our storms and bring some organizational shear to them as well. We're also going to see a pretty decent area of flow back here above our Midwest risk area, which is going to help to bring some forcing along with that frontal boundary to our storms in that area. Then we're also going to see a nice area of some flow ejecting up here in the northern plains, which is also going to help to bring some forcing for those storms as well and also help to sustain them. Then the conditional threat in parts of the central plains is going to be fueled by a high pressure system back here in the southwest and some frontal activity. And when that happens, there could be a couple of strong storms out here in this region definitely today. And then having a look at our storm environment out here in the northeast, we can see that we have a fairly straight photograph. Our shear and our low level shear isn't super duper. And then our bulk shear or organizing shear is going to be pretty nice. So definitely some organized storms out here today. Our lowest cloud level is going to be pretty low. So if there were to be a tornado anywhere, although that risk is pretty close to zero, I think it would be up here in the northeast today, and that's also going to be fueled by a pretty high 3 cape at around 200. But the main takeaway is that our moisture is going to be high and our cape is going to be high, so definitely favorable for some severe storms in front of that troughing and some weak frontal activity. Our mid-level lapse rates are going to be super poor, and then we're going to have a decent bit of cape, and our freezing level is going to be pretty low at this level, so that's why there is that conditional threat for some hail out there as well. And then there's some dry air aloft and a pretty decent precipitable water numbers, so definitely the possibility of severe winds could be possible out here in the northeast. In our Midwest risk area, there's not really much to talk about. Our photograph and our shear doesn't really look special at all, but we do have a very moist environment at around a 77 dew point, a pretty unstable environment nearing 4,000 cape, so actually very unstable. Our 3 cape is going to be 100, which is going to support that general threat for severe weather. Then our precipitable water is high at 2.1 inches, which is one of the reasons for that flooding throughout here. And it could also support that threat of severe winds with our very favorable environment for just general severe weather today.